World Food Safety Day is observed every year on June 7th, that is today, and is celebrating its fifth edition this year. According to the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, this celebration aims to raise awareness about the importance of prevention, detection, and management risk through food safety practices. Mr. Glenville Leader, Deputy Chief Environmental Health Officer for the Food Safety Program, is joining us as we dive into this interview all about food safety. Good morning, Mr. Leader. Welcome to Good Morning SKN.
Hi, pleasant good morning to you.
Happy you could join us this morning.
Indeed.
It's my pleasure.
Oh, I know. And he's on vacation too, guys. This is the sweetest worker ever. Came out to help us out right here. So let's dive right into it. Let us talk about the theme for this year's World Food Safety Day, Food Standards Save Lives.
Yes, food standards save life. That is the theme for World Food Safety Day 2023. It is important that we adopt standards. It's voluntary. Standards are voluntary, but the main objective is to ensure that there are some procedures in the chain of food to ensure safety for the consumer that consumes the food. So they came up with a number of standards that are designed. It is specific to a product or to food that is designed to keep our population safe.
You said voluntary. Why voluntary and why not mandatory?
Right.
Because you have Codex Alimentarius is the number one standardized body in the world, and you can have a country standard that is higher than that standard. You can have a regional standard. You can have a company standard. So it is basically a guideline that you are expected. And it is important rather that you follow the standard. Nevertheless, if you want to trade and be competitive, but it's voluntary still, nevertheless, yes.
Mr. Leader, what are some of the common illnesses caused by unsafe food?
Okay, we have the number one illness is salmonella associated with chicken. We have Campylobacter, we have Listeria monocytogenes, we have E. coli 0157, and so there are a range of germs and diseases affect human. And so it's important that we do what is necessary at our department to minimize the risk associated with food.
And any of those illnesses been prevalent here in the Federation?
Of course, certainly. From time to time, we will have a number of them. People visit the hospital. Just recently, we had a leptospirosis case, which is a foodborne illness, again, associated with rats and urine through food. And so, yes, from time to time.
Wow.
How often does the health department go to places that prepare food, and including those new vendors that would have popped up because of COVID? You know, people lost their jobs. So most persons have been using their talents cooking from their home and various places. How often do you check in on them?
And that's a very interesting question. Since COVID began, we had an increase in persons engaged in selling food. After having been unemployed, they thought that it was an easy way to make an earning, and so that poses a risk to us. So we had many persons involved. So what we do now? At the health department, we have 10 districts. Within each district, there is an environmental health officer whose responsibility, amongst other things, is to monitor all the food handling establishment within his or her district. And this includes and not limited to supermarkets, bakery, bars, clubs, vendors on the street. And so it's a wide range of establishment that we monitor. Hotels, anything that are engaged in selling and preparing food.
How often do you go into the establishment or go to their small businesses and...
No, the law stipulates that each establishment must be certified annually. So we give them a certificate once they meet a certain standards that we discussed before. And so that is done annually. But there are some problematic establishment that has to be addressed. So we have to visit more frequently. But once the standard is attained, it is annual.
And what happens if those companies don't meet the standards?
Wonderful. So two things can happen. Two things can happen. We work under the ambit of laws. And the law said that you can suspend the license because they are given a license if they do not meet the standard of the health department. But we encourage voluntary compliance because we really don't want to take bread out of people's mouth, but it is important that we protect the populace. And so sometimes we have to resort to serving a notice and taking the person to court or suspending the license.
Okay. So how can one, if myself, I want to start a food business, how can I obtain a food handler's permit? Is there an exam?
Okay. So two things happen. The law also states that you should apply to the Environmental Health Department, but we seek to streamline it. So we are now doing it that you make one stop at the Ministry of Finance to put that application, and then they will send it down to the Health Department, which will facilitate an inspection, which must be done in 14 days, according to the law. So once you apply and it reaches the department, we have 14 days in which to come to you and carry out an inspection.
Okay. And in that 14 days after the inspection, that's when I'll receive the permit.
It could happen 7 days, it could happen 3 days based on the workload of the health department, because you would appreciate everyday people go. Other businesses, we also receive other applications. So once you meet certain standards, right away, we will just write the necessary documents and inform finance so that you can get a business license. For that, you must have a business license to engage in this activity. And so we'll write to them with an inspection form that you must stick up in a conspicuous area in the establishment to say you're certified. And that inspection form is renewed, as I say, annually.
Okay, so I saw on the road. Where do I stick my inspection form?
Right.
So on the road now poses a challenge to us, but the law says you should stick it on a cart. If you are mobile, something itinerant vendors, it should be on your card to say that you have been certified. Notwithstanding that, each food handler should have a food handler's badge, which is something supposed to stick on your clothing or on your possession, so you can request it upon doing business with that person to see if that person is certified by the health department.
Okay.
And Hortensia just mentioned the food handler's permit. Where can individuals go to obtain a food handler's permit?
Right. So you must avail yourself. If you're intended to practice any food activity, you must come to the health department to make an appointment, to fill out an application and get an appointment for training. Every Wednesday throughout the year, we have food handlers clinic training. And voluntary, some companies are requesting us to come in-house now to perform that service. And so we have been doing that, going to business, because they don't want to close them for
the day, right?
So we are meeting those persons going into the business to facilitate that request. And Tuesdays coming on to December and peak period of music festival and around cricket, we normally put on an extra clinic on Tuesdays to help the number of people who will be involved in this activity.
Let us talk about consequences. So I'm selling my food because I need to make my money because COVID made me broke and I just couldn't wait. What am I liable to face because I do not have a food handler's permit?
Good. What you must understand is that debt is priceless. And if it's anything that we have to do is eat. And so because there is nothing such as zero risk, because you have to eat. So going out and selling illegally is against all the environmental health and public health laws. So if you're in breach of that law, we can summons you and take you before the court. And you can either get
is jail time involved?
Yes, of course, because debt is priceless. So that are a fine. Right. So it depends on the magistrate or judge who will use his or her discretion in terms of undefined.
Okay, so there's no set amount.
There's a range, and he or she can use their discretion or imprisonment. Because I'm saying, suppose you engage in it and you had 10 people die from eating your food. That's a big consequence.
Oh, Lord.
Good.
The monetary costs, can you let us know what it is so that we already know we can go to jail, but can we also know how much
not off
it
of
may
my
be?
head right now.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay.
And Mr. Leader, today is celebrated as World Food Safety Day. What are some of the activities, if any, that the Federation is putting on today in particular to recognize this?
Well, today is Wednesday, so today is our food handlers
permit class.
Good. So we bring awareness to the food handlers who are present, and from time to time we will go to the hospital because that is one of the vulnerable population where we train all the staff involved in the preparation of food for the persons at the hospital who has been admitted.
Okay.
Many times we have gone to the school meals as well, because we have a program that those persons prepare food for the children.
Yes.
And the children are vulnerable population.
Correct.
Yes.
So we try to utilize these institutions to bring awareness to the importance, recognizing they are vulnerable. And so those are some of the things that we do to bring awareness to the day of food safety.
Okay.
Got it.
You mentioned before that you check on establishments and other persons with food handlers permit annually.
Yes.
Is that so? Would we get our license annually as well, renewed as well?
Yes, every year.
Oh, every year.
So
Okay.
every year it is important that once you see your certificate is about to expire, you can do two things. Contact the health department to get it renewed, because it's illegal for you to engage in selling without it, or the officer should have a record and should renew it on his own presence too. Also, but it is important that you should take the initiative to ensure that your license are up to date all the time. So it's an annual license. So 1 calendar week before your license expires, you should contact the health department so that we can come and do an inspection. It's not just renewing it without an inspection.
Yes.
It's a total inspection to ensure that standards are attained and maintained.
Are there any training classes for those persons who have the license already? Are there any programs that they need, like new programs come in? Do they need to come into the department and participate in those new programs as well?
Well, as I say, it's an annual training, but from time to time, if there are new things happen, new emerging diseases happen, and so if we need to bring any forum or have some of those persons come into the department to keep them abreast of a new disease or outbreak of anything, we'll do that from time to time. Okay. But it's an annual training. So every year you come and whatever updated information is disseminated at that time to ensure that you have the tools and knowledge to perform your duties.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
And as the Chief Environmental Health Officer, can you share with us some of your roles?
Okay, I'm the Deputy Chief Environmental Health Officer.
Don't get beat up.
So my role is in charge of operations at the department and to ensure that I play a critical role in the primary healthcare agenda. So as I say, we have 10 officers. So we are involved in food safety, we are involved in port health. We check the water that you drink every month in every village to ensure it meets certain standards. Okay. So we certify any new business. If you are desirous, whether a doctor office or it's public health, we're in charge of drain cleaning, those persons who clean the drain to ensure that the environment meets certain standards. So anything, any nuisance associated with public health, my department, occupational health and safety, wastewater management, disposal of sewage and liquid waste, recreational water testing pools, and where you bathe at frigate bands so to make sure that it is not compromised. Good. Inspection and certification of hotels and restaurants, bars, supermarkets, right? Port health, before anybody comes off a cruise ship, we must grant something your name called pratique. So we view the declaration of health. Different people have different illness. Right. Depending on the illness, you cannot come off onto our shores. So you have to be quarantined on board. Okay. So before anyone disembark, we go there to check these documents and so. And at the airport as well.
Well, Mr. Leader, is a mammoth task you have, man.
Yes, man.
Yes. What are some of the highs and some of the challenges you would have experienced in your area of expertise? Right. And if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been working in this area? Wonderful.
I'm a 30-year veteran, yes.
You go, guy?
Yes, right. Some of the challenges is, the younger generation, anytime you try to impart knowledge in terms of for their betterment, they don't see it as important. And so many times we have to resort to the court. Instead of voluntary compliance in the interest of their health, which we will prefer because we cannot do it alone. Right. It takes a community approach in achieving anything. And so it's to get community buy-in into what we are trying to achieve as a department. So that has changed. Long time ago, the older folks used to appreciate more and have more respect for the officers when they come to the home or the establishment and carry out whatever instruction disseminated. But now
It's a fight.
It's a fight.
Wow.
Yes.
Young ones, listen to the elders. They have the wisdom.
Yes.
They'll get you far in life.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Leader, time really flies when we're definitely having meaningful discussions, but we definitely want to thank you for coming and sensitize the public on public food safety.
Is there a golden rule before we go in food safety?
Yes. So there are 5 keys to safer food. 5 keys adopted throughout the whole world for safer foods through WHO, World Health Organization. Use potable water in the preparation of food. Potable, not portable. Clean water, potable water. Separate raw foods from cooked foods, because raw foods normally contains bacteria, viruses, yeast, and mold, contaminants. And the heat is your best asset. The heat kills. That is why we cook, because the heat kills. Always wash your hand and keep your endowment, yourself clean. That is very important. It's another key. Store food to the appropriate temperature. So when you finish cooking, do not leave it at room temperature for extended period of time. You either keep it hot or you keep it cool.
Put it in the fridge.
So those are important things that we must adopt in order for us to keep food at a certain standard.